Hey loves, welcome to my channel. My name is Jennifer and I'm going to be showing you how to decorate a Mardi Gras king cake cookie. Now this is going to be a 3-part series. I'm going to show you how to decorate multiple Mardi Gras cookies in case you want to do a set for a birthday or a Mardi Gras party, but just stay tuned for the next 2 videos that I'm going to be coming out with. So let's get into how I'm making this king cake cookie. Now I made this cookie cutter myself. I printed it out with my 3D printer. So I made it into the shape of what a king cake would look like. So I'm using a flood icing to make what would be the bread part of the king cake, and I'm going to flood it in alternating sections. Now I'm doing it in alternating sections so that it can get that definition, and once I'm done with each section, I'm going to go back and I'm going to fill in the other sections that's not flooded. Now you don't have to wait overnight for this. I ended up waiting overnight just because it worked out that way. But I mean, if you would wait about 15 minutes, the icing should crust over enough to where you would get that definition. Now, if you need help with royal icing consistencies, I do have a video. I didn't show all the different consistencies I made for this, but you can review the video that I have if you have questions about what is a flood icing or an outline detail icing. It will show you in depth what those are. But right now, pretty much a flood icing is just something that's icing that's gonna move around very easily. And I'm using the flood icing to do the outline and to also flood the cookie. Now my icing is not a dark brown. You can make this any shade of brown that you want. You can even go over it with paints if you want to shade it to make it darker, but we're going to cover this with our frosting. And I say frosting, which I mean icing, in a second. So the color is not really going to matter. But I have made the icing darken before when I've made this cookie. If you are enjoying this video so far, go ahead on and hit that like button because you don't want to miss the next videos that I have coming up. Now next, I'm going to use my outline icing or my detail icing, which is a thicker consistency. And I'm just going to go over it and make it look like I'm covering a king cake. So it doesn't have to be perfect. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You're just going to put some icing on top of your king cake so that way it looks like it. Now, if you wanted to use a flood icing to do this, the icing may run down and it may not stay on the cookie like you want it. So that's why I decided to use a thicker icing for this. Okay, so once I have finished with my icing, it's still wet at this point, and I'm just gonna go in with some sanding sugar. Now I bought the great value kind. I got purple, green, and gold for Mardi Gras. And so I'm just going around doing my alternating sections of Mardi Gras colors. And I'm wondering, does it really matter if you have green next to purple? When I was doing this, I was like, is it purple, green, yellow, or purple, green, gold, whatever you want to call it? Or can you do green, purple, yellow? Is there a right way to put icing on a king cake? I mean, I don't know. So this is how I did it. I did purple, green, gold. But let me know in the comments. Are the colors supposed to be arranged a certain way? I don't know. Now what I did notice is that the gold sanding sugar by Great Value was a little thick. It was not as fine, and it was labeled sanding sugar. So this is all I could find. They didn't have the Wilton sanding sugar. The Wilton sanding sugar colors are very fine. The yellow one you buy, which would be your gold, it's very fine. This one was not, but I just went with it. It adds a little character to my king cake. Now I'm using a edible marker, which I'm using a yellow one because they're just light, and if you use a black, sometimes you can kind of see it underneath the icing or at the tip of your cookie. I'm using a yellow one. I do have these in my Amazon storefront because they are harmless to use, and I'm using it on this cookie because the shape of this cookie, the arms are like fat on it. I have to design a shirt cookie cutter that I really like because it's kind of like awkward. That's why I'm trying to map out what I want to do with this cookie so that it looks interesting. Now I'm starting off by outlining the part of the shirt that I want to be white. I'm using two different types of icing because I had to make two different types. I had to make an outline, and I know my flood was really thin, so I decided to use the outline icing to go around, and then I'm going in with my flood after. Usually I like to use one icing, one bag. I make it thick enough to where I don't have to use two different icings, but in this case I had to make a white outline icing. Next, I'm gonna go ahead on, let that dry a little bit. Mine dried overnight, but if you don't have time to let it dry overnight, go ahead on about 15 minutes, you'll be good to start on your next part. You just want it to kind of crust over so that way you can tell that these are two different sections. I made a green royal icing, which is thick enough to where I can outline and flood, and I'm just going in to do both of my sleeves a green color. Now I am doing like a Mardi Gras series where I'm showing you how to decorate different Mardi Gras cookies, so go ahead on and check out the video that I have out now, which is a king cake cookie. You can check that one out so you can see how to decorate it. It's very cute. I think that's probably like my favorite Mardi Gras cookie to make. And if you're liking what you're seeing so far, go ahead on and like this video. Please give it a thumbs up because I just really appreciate you guys being here and hanging out with me. For the color of this cookie, I'm just doing a yellow line, and this is I'm using a thicker consistency icing, so this would be referred to as my detailed icing. So I'm making that my collar, and I'm also going to make a cute little design on top of the cookie. Now to make my collar a little thicker, I am going to go back and do a second line on top of that first line, and that's going to kind of build up my collar. This green icing I'm using is a detailed icing. It's a thicker consistency. I don't want to use a flood icing when I'm trying to make like a cute shape because I don't want it running all over. And I'm not using a projector to do this. I'm just kind of eyeing it. So I'm hoping it comes out really nicely, like the shape. I'm hoping you can tell it's hearts. But if you need to use a projector, then you can go ahead on and do that. Clear piping gel. This is my secret to putting sprinkles on cookies. Okay, I've waited until my sleeves dried and I just dipped it in the piping gel, and I'm just going to paint it onto the cookie, and that way my sprinkles are just going to stick right there. Actually, I'm using sanding sugar, so my sanding sugar is going to stick right where I put this piping gel. Also, if you're a beginner, I do have some videos on royal icing consistency and writing on cookies, so check out my older videos. I think you will find those very interesting. So right now, if I put the icing and I get it in the center of those little hearts, it is going to stick there. So I'm going to try my best to avoid that. But mainly, my goal is to get it just on the sleeves. Sanding sugar I'm using, I got from Walmart. I'm using the Great Value sanding sugar. The green is not the green that I wanted, the color. I feel like Wilton has a better green. Like this is like a hunter green. I feel like Wilton has a brighter green color, but this is what I had to work with. So I mean, it's doing its job. You just sprinkle the icing and you see how it's not on the white because the white icing isn't wet. It's just on the green because that's where I put the piping gel. Now, if you are still with me, of course, y'all know that you are the MVPs. I appreciate it. Go ahead on and comment Mardi Gras down below. I'm using an edible marker to kind of outline what I want to do with this cookie. I didn't design it in Procreate. Some people use Procreate, or you can just use a pen and pencil, outline your cookie cutter and figure out what you want to do. But I didn't do that. So right now I'm just trying to map out. I have in my head how I want this cookie to look, and so I'm just using the edible marker to kind of draw on the cookie so I can make the design the way I want it. But don't be like me. Draw your image out on paper. Use Procreate. I use Procreate on the iPad to draw my cookie designs. And so do that so you won't have like a little messy cookie going on. But I know what I want to do. So it's chaos, but it works. Next, I'm going to go in with my white icing. This is just like a outline, a stiff icing that I'm using. And the inside of this crown, I kind of want to make it sparkly. So what I'm doing, I'm just putting a little bit of icing. I'm using my paintbrush to kind of brush the icing down. Now, this is my first time doing this technique. I had in my mind what I wanted to do again, but this is my first time trying this out like this. Now this luster dust I got from Hobby Lobby probably about a year ago. It's one of those things I just was walking down the aisle and I said, hey, I might need this one day. And so I just kept it, held on to it, and I thought about it today. I said, hey, I could use this to make this hat look glittery in the inside. I do have a spray bottle that is for luster dust, but I have like a different color luster dust in it. So I'm just poking out some holes on the top of this little bottle, and I'm gonna use it as a little shaker to shake some of the color on. Now, while I was doing this, I was thinking, okay, it's coming out nice, but the thing about it, I'm seeing like a lot of white from my white icing. Started patting it down, and then I was like, it's looking a little clunky, and then my white icing is turning into a gray mix. I don't know, it was doing something weird. I think next time, thinking back, I'll probably flood this with whatever color luster dust I want to use. Like, say, since this is silver, I'll probably flood it with like a gray royal icing and then just spray the luster dust on top of it so that I wouldn't be worried about having the white showing through. Anyway, you live and you learn, and next time I'll be able to execute it a little bit better. So if you're still watching, go ahead on and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not. I also have some more Mardi Gras cookie tutorials that you can check out. Now I'm using my purple flood icing. I'm going to go in and outline and flood the hat. So I realized I forgot to show when I flooded that bottom part of the cookie. Now what I did, I let the top part kind of crust over so that way it can look like two separate sections. And I just went back in after it crusted for about 10 minutes and flooded that little second part. Now I'm using my flood icing to do the top. It's just making it like into a little design. I'm going in, flooding this, and then I'm gonna go back over on top of that with the outline icing and put a little design on top. So right now I'm just flooding the top part of my hat, doing it a yellow. This is a flood icing. And then I'm gonna go back over it once it kind of crust over after about 10 minutes and add like a cute little design. So the rest of this cookie, I'm adding some details, and I'm using a detailed icing, which is a thick consistency icing. And I'm just going to put some details all around this cookie just to make it look nice and fancy, fit for a king. Now the one thing about doing little circles is you worry about craters, like little dents that can occur. Now my icing is thick, and so I'm hoping that's going to prevent it, but sometimes like you just can't. It's just something that happens. I've tried different ways to prevent this, and what I found, if I use a thicker icing, then I'm less likely to get craters, but sometimes it just happens. I just thought that it would be really cute to have like little circles on this hat, so I decided to just go with it. This is a simple cookie to do, so I'm starting off by outlining my cookie with a flood icing. I have a outline flood icing, so I'm just using one bag. Once that's all flooded, I'm gonna let it sit. I let my cookie sit overnight because my time and it just worked out that way. But as long as you let it sit for about 15 minutes, then you can go ahead on and start adding some more details on top. Just be sure you don't touch the cookie because you're gonna put a dent in it. Now to add the beads, what I'm gonna do is use thicker consistency icing. So this is going to be my detail icing. I don't want to use flood because I don't want these circles to just move everywhere. I want them to keep their shape. So I'm just going to go around the cookie with different colors so it can look like beads. If you're new to my channel, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. Also, if you like this video, go ahead on and hit that like button. It helps out my channel and I very much appreciate it. And if you are new to cookie decorating and you would like to get a free ebook, I have that in my description box where I give out recipes, tips, and it's just a very helpful book for beginners. And this cookie is just coming out adorable. I'm just simply adding in yellow wherever I can fit it in. And I mean, hopefully it doesn't crater. Now with my icing, I use a thicker consistency to try and prevent craters, you know, but sometimes it's nothing you can do to prevent that. It just happens. It's going to be a little dip in the icing. So I'm not too concerned if it does that. I think that people will get what I'm trying to do. It's not going to make it look ugly, so don't get upset if you make a cookie and then it dents, like a circle has a little dent in the middle. It happens. And if you're still watching this video, go ahead on and comment beads to let me know that you watched it all the way to the end. Be sure to subscribe, like this video, and let me know, do you like these set of beads? Do you want real beads? I mean, I'm fine with eating this cookie bead. I don't need to go to a parade. But anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you in the next one.